All right, so this is my presentation on what I did for this semester for my practicum project. I did a project and um, not a research thing. So what I did, um, I helped tutor students at the local high school that were part of the migrant education program. So each week, just at the beginning of the week, I worked with my mentor to get their assignments and I would review them before going in and teaching them, or basically like following up after they've had their class and helping them get their assignments completed and turned in and help them understand any of the material. So why I chose this project, I have a huge passion for IT. I love how it brings people together. I love how it makes things simpler and easy. I think we see a whole bunch of that during this year, 2020, with COVID. That there's a whole bunch of ingenuity that's gone into how we're still making things work with COVID going on and schools still being able to operate. And I know it's not quite the same as what we're used to, or as maybe even effective, but the possibility is still there. And I think that I'm all for making money and providing for your family and businesses doing what's right by them, but I think at some level there's an obligation that IT has to the world to improve the quality of life for everyone. So that, in conjunction with my wife being a teacher and seeing just how strapped for resources that school gets, that they literally have one IT teacher for the entire school of 1,200 students. There's really no focus to bring students into that program. They just take it if they want. And just IT being such a huge industry and well-paying jobs and just the industry's just booming. 20 years ago Google wasn't even a thing, and now it's one of the biggest companies on the planet. So just all that kind of combined, and I just really wanted to reach out and find some way to help something that I'm passionate about and something my wife's passionate about, and that's just kind of was something that was available at the time, and I'm really grateful for. So additionally, these migrant students, their parents generally work very labor intensive, usually agricultural jobs. They follow the seasons, they follow planting and harvesting seasons with crops. They get hired a lot as farm labor. And so they don't really have a whole bunch of technical background, and their kids haven't really been exposed to maybe as much technology as other students in the school have. And so when they're in these computer classes, they're being introduced to this stuff for the very, very first time. And so my goal in the whole thing was just to maybe bridge the gap and help them also know that there are careers out there that maybe they've never thought of or been exposed to, that they might be passionate about, and know that they are generally good paying jobs, and they're not hard labor. So not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you're not exposed to it, then it's hard to know what you don't know. So that's why I chose it. The initial challenges, a lot of these students, since they do tend to move around a lot, and for a lot of them, English is not their native language, it's their secondary language. They have poor work ethic in school. They're very bright and intelligent kids, and when they interact socially with each other, they are just as normal as any other kid. It's just their unique challenges makes the hurdle a little higher for them in the classroom. And so I started the tutoring and helping after about 2 or 3 weeks after they had already started, and about 75% of the students were already behind, which isn't that long in the first week. I mean, they didn't really have that much homework. It's just even in their families, school is second, third priority, where that generally wasn't the case when I was growing up. So that work ethic and just staying on top of your homework and getting it in and trying really hard was an initial challenge that we had to work and overcome. I mentioned in the last slide that computer classes were relatively new for them. They had used, obviously, most kids have cell phones today, and they all have Chromebooks at the school provided for them, but most of them never really used them with the intent of understanding how they worked. And then also a challenge for this semester was definitely COVID-19. We had protocols in place where you couldn't be so close together, and that definitely made communication harder. And when my mouth is covered up, that really does affect communication and the learning experience. And I really feel for teachers everywhere this semester. And as long as this has to go on, because it was tough, and we had to get used to each other and figure out ways to share our screens and to work around that. So the adapting and overcoming, I had to continue to grow my skills. I really didn't learn anything new as far as like technology went, but that's not the only way to grow as an IT professional. So first and foremost was my communication skills. I'm generally used to being able to send like a 1 or 2 sentence email to my boss or my colleagues at work, and that's good. They understand what I'm talking about. This was the first time in a long time that I had to talk to people who really don't know the technology or where to start, and you have to build a foundation for them. So whether it was just explaining it very briefly and simply in a straightforward manner, or use analogies, or use hands-on examples, or just demonstrations, I had to be really flexible and relatable in the way that I would speak to the students, so that they would understand what I was talking about, and they could get to that point where they understood not just enough to get the assignment done, but hopefully a little bit more to get an understanding of what they were actually working with. So the results I started seeing, homework submission rates went quite a bit up. Fortunately, like the stuff was things that I were generally familiar with. I definitely had to Google quite a bit. I mentioned that a little bit later in the slides, but it wasn't hard for me. So I was able to definitely help the students, and I had definitely enough knowledge. I was a professional and an expert on the subjects that they were talking about and learning about. So we were able to get their homework in, and I would help them learn every step along the way. So if they started on a project, and I only had a handful of them, so I got to devote a lot of time to these students as they were starting a process like command line interface, or setting up some kind of operating system service or something like that. I was able to start with them and then just continuously give them feedback that, yeah, what you're doing is right, what you're doing is right. And I could do that the whole time without them asking me a question or them wandering off into like doing something that they shouldn't do. But just seeing their confidence grow as I started doing that. So they were able to get good grades as they were going along, getting their homework in. And for many of them, that was a major accomplishment. Most of them, like I said, they were already behind by the time that I started. But their grades were above average than what their other ones were. So that felt pretty good. And then going beyond the assignment, a lot of times just by them getting that continuous feedback, what they were doing was right, and not having to wander off and go down. I'm sure you've done these assignments before where you get like way down the line. You're like, oh, I did this whole thing wrong, so I have to start over. So we had some time without them having to do that. We had some time to talk about examples that were beyond their assignments. So, they always ask, like any student ever asks in any subject, like, when are we ever going to use this? I was able to show them real world stuff. I would actually take my laptop in and open up some of my work stuff and say like, hey, look, this is going on here. And one of my customers is actually the city that we live in. And this is what we do with their power lines. I work in an automation industry where we help automate the electrical grid, and say like, yeah, so when you're like turning on your lights and turning off your lights, like all that applies. When you go into Google and you type this in, this is what you're using. And on a very small level, like we'd be talking about Linux operating systems and how they powered um, Google's data centers. But just stuff like that of like, yeah, what you're using right now is what people use all the time to power the stuff on your cell phone. And so that was pretty cool. And so I had uh, a few favorite moments. I had a lot of favorite moments. Most of the days were really fun and really rewarding. Um, the aha moments were always amazing. The one that I remember the most was having a kid trying and struggling with the command line interface on Linux, and then opening up the GUI version right next to it, doing a side by side where we created a folder in the GUI and then we created a folder on the command line. And I said, look, you did the same exact thing. And then you copied a file from one folder to another and showed them by clicking and then having them do the command line. And that was just really cool when he clicked. He's like, oh, this is all I'm doing. And then being able to read, show him in the GUI where the location was and show him on the CLI where the location was. That was just really cool. The Linux discussions were really fun because that was the first time any of them had ever seen or heard of Linux, and just the irony, like I remember talking about the irony, like, yeah, Windows, Microsoft has all these data centers, and all those data centers, instead of running the own thing that they made and built, they run Linux. And they thought that was pretty kind of ironic and kind of funny. I had fun by taking in my Raspberry Pi and showing them that I had a VPN client installed on it, a media center, and an ad blocker on it, just a $40 little computer, and it does all these things. I didn't show them how to set up the VPN connection, but they thought it was really cool that like I could get on Netflix on their school network. And I said, there's that's kind of a silly thing to do with a VPN at school, but this is a thing that I use all the time for work and keeping my stuff secure as I'm working from home. So and then the security, I remember a story from Security Plus that I shared with them about a government agency that basically hacked their way. We were talking about hacking and how it doesn't look like it always does in the movies, and how this social engineering experiment, this test, involved a government agency being able to get into another one. And they just said like, wow, that sounds just like a movie. And I was like, yeah, but this movie is true and it happens. And like our government was able to do it to our own government. And we had a pretty fun, lively discussion about that. And them saying like how they were gonna, keep passwords and everything on their phones from then on, just so people don't get into their stuff. So those were really fun. And the whole thing was just a really good experience. I didn't take any pictures. I probably should have. And I really don't have any like, assignments to show or anything because they weren't mine. And I guess even if I took a picture, you wouldn't be able to really see any of us because we'd all have a mask on. But just the thoughts that I had from it, the follow-up thoughts is just what I said at the beginning, information technology really has the ability to improve quality of life for everyone. And these students, they're seeing that trickle down to their lives, even though none of the people they live with or really spend time with are in IT. They all have phones, they all have computers right now through school, and a lot of their learning isn't online. And how that has streamlined and leveled the playing field for a lot of people is just really cool. And then I mentioned this, even though I didn't learn a whole lot of new technologies, it's impossible to remember everything that I ever did learn. I had to use Google quite a lot in reviewing and finding ways to explain to the students the things they were learning. I really think that I made the experience a little bit more fun. I don't know if their class was showing them real life examples. I really don't think they were. I think they were just kind of, here's your assignment, here's the stuff that you need to know how to do the assignment, now go do your assignment. And I was able to bring a lot of experience into their learning and say, yeah, well, this is, some of those experiences that I shared already, like this is what happens in life. And in the real world with all this stuff that you're learning. I don't know if any of them will ever turn into computer nerds or not. If they do, great. If they don't, great. But I hope that that we did at least start a foundation where they know that it's there and it's available. And at the very least, I'm very, very happy that we were able to get the students, for the most part, in a really good spot to where they passed the classes that they were in, and they were able to feel accomplished and learning a lot of the stuff that they did. And so, like, just a really good experience. Had a great semester doing it. Definitely some challenges, but very rewarding for me.
Okay, my name is Christian Mena, and my project for this semester was to build a website for a client where he is starting a new business on furniture. And his idea of his business is it goes a different ways. Like he's a carpenter that does furniture design, and he makes those things for the inside, and also he also worked for furniture outside and some other stuff as well. Um, so as part of this project, I divided the website in 5 different pages, which you can see here at the top of the website. It's home, about the company, about us, the interior design, exterior designs, and a way of contact uh, my client. Some of the things that I did on this project, I included some animation. So if you visit the page, you will see a little bit of um, image at the beginning when it start loading, and then some animation on uh, on the main frame. Uh, Here, um, I put some placeholders for uh, some of the text that the customer wants to add to the website, about how he designs uh, the furniture based on their customer needs. Um, it calls right away to a way to learn more or contact my client, and the same thing throughout the website. Here in the main page, it also explains a little bit about his services, about the interior furniture, and I included some picture that he provided me on the things that he has done so far. Uh, and you can navigate on the other things that he has done as well, like these garden beds that he has built. Here on the right, this is a place where you can grow grapes. Um, and this is another garden bed. And the last one is another placeholder for other stuff that he would like to include as well, based on customer needs that he wants to build on wood. If you scroll down, there's another call for the customer to contact this this client or this person. Um, he wanted also to include feedback from uh, former customers and the things that they thought about the product that they received from my client, and another call to communicate with my client, and the footer where how to contact them. So if you move to the About Us page, you will see again the loading icon. Um, this is an image that my client provided, a little bit of text that he wanted to include, and again, some placeholders for the text. Uh, on the interior designs, these are all furniture that he has created uh, for him or for other people. And the exterior design includes the same thing, the same format, with some of the things that he has done and some pictures as placeholders for future uh, customers or work that he may do. And finally, a way on contact. Here, he has not decided yet if he wants only to communicate through or via email or just through phone call, or just both. Um, but something that he wanted to include uh, for now until he decides what would be the best way to contact, or for the customers to contact him. Some of the challenges that I faced during this project, it was definitely COVID-19. A month ago, I got sick, and that prevented me to meet with my client to receive more feedback from him, more of the text, uh, some of the feedback from his customers, and some of the pictures. And then 2 weeks ago, he got sick, so that blocked me again to be able to meet with him and get again all the information to finish the website. But at the end, I went ahead and decided just to complete the work and just leave the placeholders on the website, because that way it would be easy for me just to include the pictures or include any other uh, information that the customer will, or my client will want me to add on the website, and in that way that will speed up the process and will be a lot faster and easy to update the website. And once everything is done, just put it um, on the internet and be able to use it. Um, I really enjoyed this project. The main reason why I decided to do this project, it was to just to give me a hands-on experience on building websites and um, refreshing my memory with some of the classes that I took that involved this project. Um, so in the future, I can also use this as part of my portfolio and my resume as well. And this has been my project. Thank you.
Awesome. So you guys